Maintaining a provoke on the Head of Decay against HYDRA is a massive make or break deal. And that is why in today's video we're going to be covering some budget HYDRA Provokers, champs that are quite easy to get your hands on, some of them underrated, some of them kind of slept on, as well as a few of the legendaries that are just the absolute cream of the crop and are champs that you can aspire towards. Let's start off with the rare champs, because believe it or not, there are actually a couple, and the first that I think bears mentioning a little bit, and of course these are budget options. They're going to be much more valuable to free-to-play players or players that are just getting started in raid, and you can consider building these guys out for the future. And Sentinel is a great option for this if you happen to just have very bad pulls and just don't have any decent reliable provokers by the time you want to start getting involved in HYDRA Clan Boss. The A1 is what it's all about. It's very simple, fully bucked up. It gives a 85% chance on hit of placing a provoke debuff for one turn if this attack is critical. And so Sentinel is an amazing single target provoker option to take against the Head of Decay. Into HYDRA, if you have no other options, he can also help you out in early Doom Tower as well, where you need to keep the Magma Dragon boss taunted up and provoked at all times, and so he finds some use there as well. His passive also helps out, heals this champion by 10% of their HP at the start of their turn. This heal can also be critical, so getting this guy built up with, of course, that good old 100% crit chance is going to be imperative. The A2 is an attack all that places some debuffs, so he does find a little bit of use as well into wave content like faction wars, but mostly Sentinel going to be a little bit of a one-trick pony. I think he does bear mentioning though. And next on the Provokers list we have a champ that, again, for Doom Tower, you might want to build out Master Butcher. This guy is a little bit of a cheat code going into Bommel the Dreadhorn in Doom Tower, and so he's definitely worth a consideration. And of course he does also bring a provoke that actually lasts for 2 turns on his A2. It is a 4-turn cooldown, but place a provoke debuff on the target enemy for 2 turns, and an increased crit rate buff on allies for 2 turns also. And on his A1, he also has an attack 1 enemy with a 30% chance of placing provoke for 1 turn as well. And so, you know what? He's not the most reliable in the world, but as far as rare champions go, Master Butcher is well up there, and again, the guy is so good into Dreadhorn Bommel in Doom Tower that he's definitely probably the best budget rare option that you're going to get as far as HYDRA Provokers go. Not that we'd recommend that you actually build either of these rare champions, by the way, specifically to take into HYDRA, but if you're using them elsewhere in the game, and again, you're looking for a budget option because you're free to play or whatever, then these are some damn good picks. I tell you a champ that you will definitely build out for HYDRA though, if you were looking to start off a new raid account, it's going to be Rector Drath. Hey man, you can get Rector Drath completely for free by using my beginner sign-up code down below at the top of the video description. Simply click on that link, sign up to raid using that link, and you get your hands on 2 free epic champions to go at account level 15-ish. And Rector Drath once your account hits level 25. Just make sure that you are signed out of Plarium Play before clicking on that link, just to ensure that you create a new Plarium ID when making your new account, and you guarantee that you get your hands on those saucy new champs. Okay man, next champ that we're going to talk about is of course going to be good old Husk, who is worth mentioning in this video, because even though his provoke is very unreliable, well, not very unreliable, but it's not the greatest. He has a double hitter with a chance to place provoke on his A1, and so that's great to have as like a backup provoke on your team. But if you do happen to pull a Husk, he is a Force Affinity epic, so it's not too unlikely that you will eventually pull your way into Husk if you're pulling your Ancient Shards during 2x events and stuff like that. But it's also just a phenomenal damage dealer into HYDRA as well, on account of this A2, which is an attack all enemies, chance of placing stun debuff for 1 turn, which is great into wave content, but against HYDRA, its damage inflicted is proportional to enemy max HP, meaning that the damage scales up like crazy. And as far as epic champ damage dealers go into HYDRA, Husk is an amazing option, and the provoke is more of like a side note, like a bonus. You know, you'd ideally want Husk alongside another second semi-reliable provoker on the team, just to make sure that you always have the Head of Decay under control, well, at least 90% of the time. Next up we have a champ that is completely free and often slept on by a lot of folks. Where's Jizzo, man? There he is, dude. This champ sucks. This champ is garbage, but he's good at one thing and one thing only, and that is provoking up the Head of Decay. With this A3, attacks one enemy, it's bookable down to a 4-turn cooldown, and has a 100% chance of actually placing provoke debuff for 2 whole stinking turns. So if you build him with, enough accuracy to guarantee that you're going to land this, and then just build him nice and fast, and you have some increased speed buffs and stuff on your team, and you're decreasing the speed of all of the Hydra heads as well, hopefully you can just get back around again to this A3 before the provoke actually wears off the Hydra head. As far as epic and super accessible champs go, he does at least have that going for him, and he can do that job. He can't do much else, but he can do that job at the least. Next up, another awesome pick, and I absolutely love this champ, dude, but another provoker that you can throw into the mix as well. Again, good alongside a second provoker, so run Skuramis as a secondary provoker, but it is going to be Skuramis. This guy is just a Giga Chad, man. On his A3, he brings the provoke at a 100% land rate, booked on a 3-turn cooldown, has a 100% chance of placing provoke on all enemies for 1 turn. Of course, it can only affect the Head of Decay, but there you go. He also buffs himself up with counterattack and continuous heal on this champ for 2 turns as well. So why is this so good into Hydra? Well, it's because the Head of Mischief in Hydra will always focus its attacks and on the enemy with the most buffs. Okay, so if Skuramis is buffing himself with these extra 2 buffs, then the Head of Mischief will always attack into Skuramis and attempt to steal those buffs off of Skuramis. That means that, yeah, you can use Skuramis as a budget provoker early on, but if you can eventually build him out to have a solid amount of resistance, like 350 plus resistance, just to sort of get you started into normal Hydra and stuff, then he can also resist the buff steal from the Head of Mischief, so you can act as a Mischief tank and sort of like a backup or like secondary provoker for the Head of Decay on your Hydra team as well. And yeah, he's a magic affinity epic champ, not too unlikely that you pull your way into him, similar to Husk. And yeah, definitely worth a mention. Also brings strong version decrease attack as well on an attack all on his A2. So yeah, great into Hydra, great into wave content, just another fantastic epic champ. Budget-ish option. Stick with the trend of non-void epics. We're just going to cover all of the epic champs now, I guess, work our way up to the legendaries. We got to touch on good old Seeker, who does bring a, what chance is this? 50% chance of placing provoke on his A1. Again, somewhat unreliable, and so you want to be running him as a secondary or just a provoker that's part of like a provoking duo. And of course, Seeker, he's not the kind of champ that you're going to max up and like take up to 60 or whatever purely for Hydra. But again, if it's early days, your account's just getting started, you're looking for a budget option backup provoker, he can do a job for you with the provoke, but he's also fantastic into arena as well, with a huge 10 meter fill on all allies on the A2 and an increased attack buff on the A2 as well. And so you primarily be building out your Seeker to just be fast as possible, and then using him in arena. And if you happen to do that, and you unlock Hydra and you want to start getting involved with normal mode Hydra, then he can be a good option as well, just to bring that extra little provoke. And finally, among the more accessible epics, we've got good old Duck the Pierced. Dude, man, every time I review this champ in a video, I don't know, dude, look at that shield. This guy's so badass, man. He's one of the coolest looking champs in the game, man. Are you kidding me? He brings all kinds of debuffs, decreased accuracy on the A1, brings decreased attack and decreased defense as well on a 3-turn cooldown on his A2, so fantastic debuffs already, and then the provoke comes in on the A3. Now it is a 4-turn cooldown provoke, only lasts for 1 turn, of course. So once again, he's going to be more of a backup provoker than anything, but yeah, Duck the Pierced, if you pull this champ early, you're almost definitely going to max him out, just because he's kind of good everywhere in the game, because he just brings so many super strong debuffs in his kit that if you end up maxing him out, he can be a good starter provoker to, yeah, help you pad out your Hydra team just a little bit. His A3 also places a reflect damage buff and unkillable buff on himself as well. The unkillable only lasts for 1 turn, but I wonder, man, has anybody tried to build out Duck the Pierced as a mischief tank? I can't imagine that they have, but, you know, maybe that's a thought worth considering. I don't know, man. I don't think I'd recommend that. The unkillable buff only lasting for 1 turn will probably make it quite a bit unreliable, but there you go, man, Duck the Pierced. Now on to the legendaries, and first and foremost, we're going to cover by far the most accessible legendary that's going to help you out with provokes into Hydra. It's of course going to be Physics the Unbowed. This gal is crazy as hell. On the A3, 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, place a provoke debuff for 1 turn, and shield buff herself as well. And so there's the provoke. Again, Ideally, you're going to be running alongside maybe a secondary Provoker, just to make sure that you get that constant uptime against the Head of Decay. And then on her A2, she also brings some very, very crucial tools as well to Hydra. With an attack all enemies, 100% chance of placing strong version decreased speed for a couple of turns. She's also void affinity, so can't weak hit, which is just great. So she brings 2 fantastic tools to Hydra right away. And then also place an ally protect buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Now, this does mean that you're going to have to build her to be tanky as all hell, because she's going to be soaking all kinds of damage and soaking all of that damage for the rest of your team. And some people do have problems with keeping their Physics alive, so just be aware of that. But she is a damn good option, budget option to bring into Hydra. And similar to Physics, we have good old Drexthar, who you get your hands on. Oh yeah, by the way, Physics is just literally a login reward champion. I didn't mention that, but play a raid for, I think it's like 8 or 9 months, and you get your hands on Physics completely for free just by logging into the game. Drexthar Blood Twin, you get this legendary defense champion from playing Tag Arena and eventually buying up his fragments one at a time on a 24-hour cooldown from the Tag Arena Bazaar. Right, the shop, the market. So Drexthar, again, just another very, very good sort of backup Provoker. The Provoke comes on as A2, attack all enemies, has a 60% chance bugged of placing Provoke debuff for 1 turn, so not super reliable unless the enemy is under an HP burn debuff, in which case it becomes a 100% chance to place the Provoke on that 3-turn cooldown. So not too bad. He does bring the ability to place the HP burn himself on his A1, but you might struggle to land that Provoke right away on round 1 against the Head of Decay, which can be a little bit of a problem. And so, once again, as with all champs so far in this list, to be honest, they're not going to be a completely reliable solo Provoker. Apart from maybe, to be honest, Sentinel. He's actually quite reliable, probably the most reliable we've covered so far. I guess the issue with Sentinel is that he only does one thing, and that spam is A1 in Hydra, so he doesn't really bring anything else to the table. But Drexthar, another good budget option worth considering. Now, for 3 legendary champs that are just absolutely cream of the crop, S tier stuff, we're going to start off with good old Vault Keeper Wixwell. Wixwell's A1 is a double hitter, with each hit having a 60% chance of placing Provoke for 1 turn. If the target is a boss, fully bugged, it's a 100% chance. As reliable as you can possibly get for an A1 Provoke going into the Head of Decay in Hydra. And why is Wixwell so good on top of this, right? Of course, he brings some extra survivability and some decreased attack and stuff on his A2. That's all great, but it's really about his passive. At the start of each round, place a counterattack buff on this champion for 110. This buff cannot be removed, except it can. It can actually be stolen by the Head of Mischief, but that's what we're kind of banking on, right? What you can do with Wixwell is build him with just a crap load of resistance, and he can totally be your Mischief head tank as well, because this buff just has crazy amounts of uptime. And so, yeah, Wixwell can literally take care of the Head of Mischief, brings all kinds of survivability and buffs to your team, and be one of the most reliable A1 tanks in the game for keeping the Head of Decay provoked. Yeah, just an incredibly, incredibly good champ. The only reason I haven't built him out for Hydra, actually, is because he's built very, very specifically for me to take care of Clan Boss, and I just don't have the gear right now to kind of do both things at once on the guy. Another ridiculously good Hydra Provoker is, of course, dude, we've got to talk about good old Archer Queen, and I swear it's not because I looked out and got her super, super early on my account, but yeah, Archer Queen is ridiculous. I mean, ridiculously good into Hydra. I think she just has a perfect 5, yeah, in the in-game reviews going into Hydra. But her A3, attack all enemies, place a Hex debuff for 2 turns, and a Provoke debuff for 1 turn, except it becomes 3 turns Hex and 2 turns of Provoke if the target is a boss instead. And it's on a 3-turn cooldown, so it's 100% Hex and Provoke debuff uptime across all of the Hydra heads. Unbelievable, crazy as hell. Also, if she deals damage to hexed enemies, she also heals all allies by 10% of their max HP, which is just nuts. And so the amount of healing she does as well, on top of keeping the Hydra head provoked, is just a joke. Ridiculous. She has an AoE stun as well on the A2, except against bosses, it actually becomes a strong version of decreased speed against bosses instead, which is equally crazy, and fill the 10 meters of all allies by 10% if a decreased speed debuff is placed by this skill instead. So, oh my god, dude, she's just stupidly, stupidly good. Obviously, she's an exclusive champ, and so people just can't even get their hands on her anymore. It almost feels bad for that reason to bring her up. People are understandably irritated about that. I wish they'd just add her to the game, man. I want to stop feeling guilty about having her, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to make people salty, man. And the last champ we're going to cover is good old Bivald of the Thorn, who, while not being the most reliable legendary provoker in the game, just brings a crap load of utility to the Hydra fight. In fact, there are a couple guides up on YouTube. I think Ash posted up a build guide on Bivald that actually has him playing in a provoke set, just to make him a bit more reliable at keeping the Head of Decay provoked and under control. On the A1, he has a 50% chance of placing provoke for 1 turn, and crucially with Bivald, by the way, the provoke debuff can be placed even if this attack lands as a weak hit. So it doesn't matter that he's a spirit affinity champ. If he's going into a negative affinity Hydra head, or the Hydras get up the poison cloud buff and so they're just weak hitting everything against them, he can still land the provoke against the Head of Decay anyway. It doesn't matter. So the A1 is fine. The A2 is a double hitter. The first hit with a chance of placing provoke, and the second hit with a chance of placing leech. Also place a strengthen buff on Bivald for 2 turns. So once again, we're already thinking about potentially building out your Bivald with a crap load of resistance, and that's a way that you can go and make him your Head of Mischief tank as well, and just be doing 2 jobs at once on the team, which is great. And of course, Leech is just good everywhere, just increasing the survivability of your team by a lot, by allowing your allies to heal via dealing damage. And not just that, but yeah, he's got another attack all enemies on the A3 as well. Damage increases for each debuff on each enemy, so this guy can actually smack as well, by the way. You can build out your Bivald with just a crap load of HP and crit damage. There's a lot of ways you can build this guy, which again, he's so versatile. I think that's part of the reason that I'd class him as one of the better Hydra provokers in the game. Yeah, because he can fill so many roles, and there's so many ways that you can pad out his gear. But yeah, his A3 also heals allies by 20% of damage inflicted and shields them up as well. And even though the video's going on just a little bit, there's one more champ that I gotta touch on. Where's Kantra, dude? This champ, oh my god, man. This champ is crazy as hell. She's only got 2 skills in her entire kit, dude. A1 is a double hitter with a chance of stealing a random buff from the target. It's all about the A2. Look at this, man. This is just crazy, okay? And she's technically a provoker as well, and we'll get to how in just a sec, but this A2 for Kantra the Cyclone attacks all enemies 3 times, each hit with a 75% chance bucked of placing one of the following debuffs for 2 turns. Block buffs, decrease attack, decrease speed, weaken, decrease accuracy, or heal reduction. So she's just a buff hose pipe. She just sprays, debuffs everywhere. And then on the passive, she also decreases enemies' accuracy by 10 for each debuff they are under. Just great. And skipping on down just a little bit, has a 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn on enemies under 5 or more debuffs at the start of Kantra's turn. So again, she can kind of fill in as a backup provoke champ, provided you can get the debuff uptime across all of the Hydra heads to actually be getting this off, of course, on the Head of Decay. But yeah, she's just such an exciting champ, man. I'd love to have a damn Kantra on my account. It would be awesome. But alright, man, that's all I got. What crazy Hydra provokers did I miss? I know there would have probably been a few. I wanted to kind of focus on more of the more accessible Hydra provokers in this video to help y'all out. Alright, man, thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you're looking to start a new raid account, a new alt account, or something like that, then do so by clicking on my promo link down below at the top of the video description to kickstart your account with 2 free epic champions, including HYDRA at account level 25. For now, thanks for watching. Do please enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch all of y'all just a tad bit later, man.